wants to speak.
Yeah, we can look at it, but sometimes.
Hey, usually they note it. Usually they note additions. Yes. Oh, Natalie, I have one extra of regular meeting. Sorry, I got two stuck together. And I can share this with you. I don't know this one in case.
Right.
Come here, Sarah. Yeah, if you want to speak, you want to say something.
Well, just coming here today, too late.
Yeah, but maybe speak. Yeah, and then just turn it in. Superintendent. And then they'll call your name. And then, well, no, I mean.
Okay, everybody ready? I'd like to call this meeting of the Bethel Board of Education to order for Monday, January 10th, the organizational meeting of the Board of Education. Everybody please rise for at 7:00 p.m. Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First real business item per se is the oath of office. Go down here.
Excuse me when I'm turning back to the crowd, but I need Mr. Elam, Mrs. France, and Mrs. Dunphy to stand, please. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the local Board of Education of the Bethel Local School District in Miami County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office until your successor is elected and qualified. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Have a full sitting body. Take and we call the roll, please.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Here.
Mrs. Sebastian, here. Mr. Elam,
Here.
Mrs. Donahue, here. Mrs. France.
Here. Okay, the next order of business is one no one looking forward to for sure. Can we have a moment of silence, please, and reflection to honor Mrs. Jody Peters, who we lost in December? Thank you. Time for our educator, Mrs. Spears. First, if you would say, please.
Mrs. Spears taught at Bethel Local Schools for nearly 20 years. During that time, she had a tremendous impact and influence, not only on her students, but also her colleagues. On behalf of the Bethel Board of Education, our staff and our students, I would like to send our deepest sympathies to the Spears family. And, it's a tough loss for the district, for students and staff, and for the community alike, and just keep them in your thoughts and prayers as we move forward.
Thank you. Now we need to do election of president and vice president. So any board member may nominate these members for office. So can we have a nomination for president for the coming year, please?
I nominate Lyda Mansfield.
Thank you, Mr. Elam. Any other nominations? Hearing none, I can close nominations for president. I accept nomination for president. Can we call the vote, please?
Mrs. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield.
I'll abstain, please. Thank you all for your tremendous vote of confidence. I hope to honor you all with that vote to the best of my ability, for sure. I would now at this time like to open nominations for vice president, and I would like to make the nomination for Lori Sebastian to be vice president of the board for next year. Are there any seconds for that nomination?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Elam. Anyone else? Feel free to have as many of these as you'd like. Okay. Anyone else like to nominate anyone else for vice president? Okay, hearing none, I close nominations for vice president. Mrs. Hagan, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. France,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian.
I will also abstain.
It is. Okay. So now we're going to do our standing committees. The first one that comes up is our Ohio School Board Association legislative liaison. And Mr. Elam, you've done this in the past. Would you like to continue, or does anyone else like to volunteer for that position? Thank you, Danny. You have a liaison also to the Miami Valley CTC. I know last year that I did this one, but I'm more than willing to give this up. If anyone else would like to volunteer to do that, excellent. Mrs. Franz, who did that one? That's fantastic. And that you had a speak and read. Yeah, fabulous. Athletic liaison. Mrs. Sebastian, that was you in the past, is that correct? Okay. If you'd like to again.
Sure, I can.
Anyone can, obviously. Okay. Technology committee, I believe, was Mrs. Reese before, so I know that one's open and available for anyone who'd like to volunteer. Do you want to know? I certainly can.
Or Natalie. I'm willing to do that.
Are you?
Yes.
Great, that's fabulous. Excellent. Thank you so much. And then our facilities committee is one that's like a rolling, kind of an ongoing committee. It's not necessarily one that would need to be addressed here, but we certainly can. We have the list here. There's a number of members. So obviously, Lori, are you going to continue on that one? And Mr. Elam?
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Reese, who is in the audience today, has been on that committee, and she emailed today to say she's very interested in continuing as a community member, which we appreciate very much. But she had been secretary in the past. And Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, you said you're willing to allow someone else to step into the role of secretary if they wish. Is that okay? That's fabulous. And Mr. Elam, did you say that you're willing to take on that role if you'd like? Thank you for stepping into that situation. Obviously, Mr. Ferks is the chair. And Mrs. Hageman, you're on that committee. And then Mr. Gilbert and Mr. Runkle, have they indicated they want to continue?
I heard back from Mr. Runkle. He would like to continue. I did not hear back from Mr. Gilbert, but I know he's busy.
For sure. So we'll just assume that's the case. We'll figure otherwise. Okay,
I would assume you'll get back to me very soon.
that's fabulous. All right. That sounds good. Item B. Authorization for a treasurer to request advance withdrawal funds. So it's a standard item so that we can pay our taxes. Sounds like a good idea.
Well, we request advanced withdrawals of taxes from the Miami County Auditor as they collect them, so we don't have to wait till the very end. So it improves our cash flow.
Fabulous. And then authorization to pay bills is due. Similar situation.
Just need your permission to pay our bills as they come due.
Similar with investing funds
Yes.
and for payroll. Definitely would not want to not have that be in place.
All right.
I think that's one of our primary jobs.
Right.
Take care of that. All right, so far so good. All right, how about our regular meetings and work session schedule? There is one attached for those dates that would actually work out to be if we did what we have done traditionally, which is the second Tuesday, first Tuesday, second Monday. I have to always get that straight.
Right.
But I do see a number of those that would be where our work session would fall on the very first day of the month.
Right. I think February and March are both on the first day and, you know,
And a couple that are on the second or on the
yeah.
third day of the month. So how does that work out for your office?
Well, I will say that there's probably no way I'll have the monthly board reports done because we're closing the books on the first. So
Absolutely.
it would be the work session. So if we continue to do the work session that first day, I won't have any board reports to review with anybody until the actual board meeting. So that's entirely up to the board. Yeah, typically we don't get the books closed until the first, so the soonest I could do board reports would be the second.
So I feel like often our plan for first Tuesday, second Monday works out great. But we've had sort of a shift of the calendar to where it may not be, I don't know, our best plan. What do you guys think? The schedule works well for you.
I was okay with that.
It's good for you.
I'm good with the schedule, works great.
And everybody's okay with not having financials until the actual meeting, is that okay? And you can send those when you have them.
I can, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
So we will continue with the regular meetings. And how this work? Regular meetings would be the second Monday of the month. And then the work sessions would be the first Tuesday of the month. Okay.
We're gonna leave this as part of the consent calendar.
Mhm.
And then if we
Yes.
do, we don't really need to fill in that motion.
Right.
We don't right now.
Right.
Other questions about the calendar? I think there are other things that we suggested at the bottom, such as,
The November dates, because of the Capitol Conference usually happening between the 7th and the 10th of November, I moved those to the 15th and the 22nd, similar to what we did this year. But if we want to adjust that, that's fine. But I thought, considering they typically have that Capitol Conference that same week in November, so.
absolutely.
Other than that, I think we're okay.
I see your notes about the Leadership Academy and
Yes.
my annual retreats, things like that.
Right, so anytime the board meets with more than two, which is a quorum, we have to sort of let people know that this may be a possibility, which is the Board Leadership Academy, Southwest Region meetings for spring and fall conference, if you guys decide to attend. Of course, the Capitol Conference in November and semi-annual retreats and graduation, where you can be in quorum situation.
We also need to add board training in January to that.
January 25th.
Yes,
I know we're
January
going to the planning academy.
From 5 to 8.
So January 25th.
Yep.
And at least 3 of us. Yep.
3 and 1 DS.
Okay, great.
I will add that.
And when you mentioned retreats, I think that given we have the new members as well as the new treasurer, it could be a great idea for us to have some form of a team building sort of retreat this year. How does everybody else feel about? Just throwing that out there as a topic for you guys to consider. Thoughts about that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Some kind of a team building retreat, I think, is in order for us this year, given that we have a new team. Pretty much, the only team almost, it's at least 50% new, right? We've got new board members and a new treasurer, so we've got some people to get to know and things like that. So I think it'd be great for us to have some time together. You guys,
What was the time frame?
probably fairly soon, maybe March. I don't know. You guys think? Thanks. We're very flexible on when it would be.
Okay.
Sure.
Is there a time frame that works well for you too? Because I think the three of us are pretty flexible.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And it could be something that they take all forms. Sometimes they can be an afternoon dinner, sometimes they could be, a Saturday kind of a thing. It just depends on what works best for everyone. So we're very flexible on what form it takes for the first one, just to dip our toes in, Mr. Allen, I think that in the past, you've done a little bit of research on what might be available, some ideas.
Well, that was with the person that was already way to run it.
Okay,
That was who I got in touch with.
sure.
So I can do that again.
You're interested in the scope and out what's available for us? Great, fabulous. So we can do- Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, sorry for that morning. Detour. Okay, board compensation, this is another standard item. No changes to this. Same rate of pay, same number of meetings pay. Service fund. So this is also a standard item with our ability to get professional development. Like what we were just talking about. Okay. Standing board resolution. Okay, this one. Motion for hire, okay, this one is not one I was familiar with.
Yeah, this one, I think maybe a new one. This gives the superintendent the authorization to hire. And I think it even says treasurer in this one. Yep. Yeah. Oh, and it does with respect to employees under mine, and
Oh,
if we need to hire somebody and get them in and working, allows us to do that and then get board approval after the fact. So this is somewhat new. I don't think Bethel has had this on the agenda in the past.
It also
So
allows us to accept resignations.
accept
in those positions.
resignations, right? So if somebody turns in their resignation, sometimes it's really important to get that posted as quickly as possible. So if we can accept that and get those positions posted. Thank you.
It also saves us from calling a special. So I'm explaining to both new board members and the audience why we do that. It's a good thing to do. So we can get positions posted. People are once.
So new to the agenda, but not really new to practice. Right? The next item is approval of resolution authorizing superintendent treasurer to serve as purchasing agent. This one is, okay, so this one does connect to a little bit to the action we took in November, is that correct?
Yes.
So can someone expound upon it, please, whether,
In October, November, we increased the signing authority for the superintendent from 5,000 to 50,000. This sort of goes along with that, and adds the treasurer as a backup in case he's not here, or if I'm not here, he can, vice versa. So you have two people instead of one. And it cannot exceed the $50,000 as was discussed back in October, November. So, allows us to issue purchase orders, enter into contracts, and then get board approval or approve checks and things for that as invoices are presented.
questions about that?
This does not change the board policy where we're required to get more than 2 quotes. Get at least 2 quotes if there's a purchase of over 10,000, right? This goes along with that administrative guideline of 6320 that we discussed back in October, November.
The next item is the resolution authorizing our legal services with Mr. Bujarski and it's written, and then Ben Marshall.
Correct. The resolution only includes Ennis Britton because that's their resolution, that's their form that they like to have passed and ready to go. But we've been using, the other 2 firms for a while. We just need to have procedurally have the board approve continued use of those services.
Thank you for helping roll through what some of those things meant. I appreciate it very much. Okay, is there a motion to place these items?
Are we gonna have any extra discussion?
We got on the consent calendar first. Could I have a motion to place the items on the consent calendar? Thank you, Danny. Is there a second? I'll second. Thank you, Alex. Discussion, please.
I was going to ask about a couple things on item, sorry, let's see here, item yeah, item let's see, item I, the authorizing certain actions. Oh, sorry, item J, sorry.
I is certain actions and J is the purchasing agent. So which one? J.
J, yes,
Okay,
yeah, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
The, can you share with an example of anything that might be coming down the pipe that would fall under the $50,000 maximum that you know would need to be taken care of before we had a chance to actually hear that at the board level?
An example I could think off the top of my head would be dealing with repair and resealing and restriping of parking lots in the summer. Potentially get companies on the schedule with how busy they are in the summer with doing school parking lots. That'd be one I could think of. Another one could be if you would have some sort of a mid-range issue with a boiler or a chiller that could impact heat or air conditioning in the buildings that you would want to get fixed ASAP for students and staff. There could be some issues with leaks with roofs.
About when we had the problem in the old building where.
I wasn't here for that, but that would be a good example when you had the archway stone that fell down
Yes.
from the elementary building maybe 5 years ago. That would need some immediate attention for safety of students and staff. I think folks are probably familiar with that and how it had to be repaired pretty quickly. Those are 3 examples that I can come up with.
Do you think there's anything that would fall in between that $25,000 to $50,000 range that that would preclude us from wanting to maybe just hold it at $25,000? I'm wondering percentage wise.
Yeah, we wouldn't know the cost of items until we received our bid back or quotes back. So I don't have any.
Sure. Well,
Off the top of my head, I mean, I'm trying to give you examples.
Yeah.
Those could be less or it could be more. I don't
Sure.
know. Especially with the way prices are anymore. It seems like things have gone up quite a bit.
Sure.
Items.
yeah, I understand that. I just wondered with, I know we have the construction authorization that was already done in December. And I was just trying to think that there's a real need to go above 25,000, how often that would be is for general purposes.
As far as the construction, once again, I wouldn't know until we got involved in the construction. And right now they're doing groundwork and site work. I have no idea what that's going to look like once potential change orders come across. I've been involved in construction projects before, but not with the cost points that we're seeing right now, which is why we've had some budget issues. So I think we're still waiting on a lot of bids to come in from our BOE meeting today. They're still working with our subcontracts and trying to hammer out those details with, they have the big ones narrowed in, like steel and the leaks and the plumbing and those kind of things, electrical, but until we get into the nitty gritty of the project, I can't say with 100% accuracy that I know what the costs are going to be and what's going to pop up during construction. I wish I had a better answer for you. I just don't. I don't. Right now, all they're doing is putting in storm and sewer. We haven't seen any sticks and bricks go up yet.
Well, and just as an example, Todd brought this up on our floor meeting today, who's our maintenance director. There's concern with the limestone and bedrock, they have a budget for the excavating of that as necessary, but if there's more rock there than expected, that can easily be another $10,000-$20,000 without, so things like that it's really not optional. It's like when we needed to put Pioneer Electric in. We have to have power. So there's going to be other things potentially that we don't know right now. That would be another example I could think of.
Yeah, and to be transparent with people, they've already used a third of their budget for that. So I think they had, what they say, 170,000
Something like that.
allocated,
yes.
and they've used 60
They've
already.
used about a third of it.
But I think people know that's been an issue on this land for a while.
They weren't concerned at this point in time, but they could hit a bad spot tomorrow and, we just don't know until it's done.
Sure.
So, unfortunately.
I call a special meeting for Chromebooks. Have that purchase done in time, and have them be here. Well, it's a $60,000 purchase.
Yeah, we had to do that last year.
Just to get them going out.
I know when we were reviewing the guidelines, I believe back in like October, November, like Tina was mentioning, we talked about just the I think it was just the purchase order, right? And this has the other, thought it had, the supplies, repairs and equipment.
Yeah, the limit on the administrative guideline was for personnel services, professional services and services was 5,000. This covers anything and everything that the district may need, like Chromebooks, if we can purchase up to just 50,000, that's it. Anything above so like if we had to buy 60,000, we're still doing a special board meeting because this is only 50,000. I say it's 50,000. 50,000 is the construction bid requirement. So if we're gonna go and build anything, or it's gonna, do any construction on the buildings or at the property, we have to go out to bid. So you can't just sign a contract and things of that nature. So it's a number that's used a lot in a lot of districts. I think, at Miamisburg, my signing authority was 25,000. And that was because that was the old bidding requirement and we just never moved it up to 50 and I never felt the need to. We were always able to make it work. But, in October, November, the board agreed to go to 50,000. So that's why, it should be every January that we do something like this to say this is the signing authority for the treasurer and superintendent. But so that's why I put it back on the organizational board meeting and I was just doing what we had already agreed to in October.
And Tina, would it be your opinion and Justin's opinion that because we are growing, there's probably a greater need to have a little more cushion on that than maybe other districts that are more stable?
Especially with the construction project. I think that's the biggest thing, but there's potential with needing, not knowing enrollment and enrollment fluctuating and potentially having to have a large purchase with Chromebooks, which has been talked about before, or even textbooks. With curriculum adoptions, making sure we have enough materials for classrooms. You just don't know in this district how many students you're going to have from year to year or month to month, because we do get a high influx of students that come in on the Christmas break. And that's nobody's control.
Yeah, I think I'm just concerned about that we are watching our pennies more closely since we don't have that the fifth grade wing yet. Maybe the consideration. Again, I don't have the experience that the board here has. Like the 50,000 seems a little high. I would probably personally be more comfortable with 25,000, but it's something that you all have already discussed and gone over November, December. I'm just looking at it for discussion and getting thoughts of other board members on possibly lowering that to 25, what your thoughts would be. Would that be for non-construction related expenses? Could we keep the 50,000 for the construction? So it's an initial. Is that added? This is different than the one that was in. Sorry, should speak up. So how is the wording different? Because I know there's been things that have been added to this that were, that you guys discussed in November, December, and it's on that again.
Well, what we discussed in November, December was just the administrative guidelines that were for the district. So we we only discussed those those particular items. So this is this language I've used in other districts. It's just, to say this is where our signing authority, we can't go above what the appropriations are. We have to get a board approval for that, So it does add purchases for other things rather than just personnel services, which was the $5,000 limit before, which you can't get anything for $5,000 anymore. So yeah, but it isn't, So it's for supplies and purchase services and, equipment as needed, so.
And Lori, what you were suggesting is just saying that maybe for construction, keep it at 50, everything else on the street. I was asking if you and Natalie would play it through. I mean, because I think there was pretty good discussion when we approved it. So, I mean, I would be okay adjusting it. Can we get the language, Tina? Can you adjust the language so that it reflects that? Can you get with the attorney tomorrow? Just make sure.
Sure.
It says that. I mean,
Mhm.
so what we want, just so we're all clear, is $25,000 purchasing authority, general request for the current construction project, including the athletic stadium, the K-5 building. We'll leave it at 50,000. Sounds good. Danny?
Yes.
Okay. So. That motion. We'll call the roll on that motion.
We discussed before we voted on the motion. Sorry about that.
Well, we're gonna amend that.
We are gonna, right, yeah, so that motion that Danny and Natalie, you made a motion on placing the items on the consent calendar. We will amend it before we vote on the final one, but for now, we didn't even vote on the motion before we discussed. So that's what I'm saying, we need to back up a second and really quick have a vote, and then we'll amend and then vote again, okay? Sorry about that. Okay, can you call that, please?
Sure. Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian.
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. Springs.
Yes.
Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, I needed a motion to adopt the consent calendar with, including the changes to the dollar amounts in the resolution as discussed to be 25,000 on what I guess we'll call standard purchases, and 50,000 for construction purchases. Do I have a motion for the adoption? Given those changes. Thank you, Lori. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay. Any discussion, further discussion there?
Do I need to make a motion for discussion? Item J, Standing Board of Education Resolution authorizing certain actions for the language there. I was wondering if we might be able to amend that to include passing a ban. Do I mean I? Yes.
For the employment one?
Oh,
Okay. I'm sorry, mine is J, so I missed the other. Okay, yes, that is the one I'm referring to. Thank you. I'm wondering if we could possibly amend that to include passing background checks before teachers begin. Is that already?
They already have that. They have to have a background check before they get a license.
So it's okay.
They have to do an FBI, DPI background check.
Since Mr. Ferks has been here, he will employ people until that background check is back, so we don't have to worry about that. That was an issue in the past. That's part of our normal process. His process, since he's been here, he changed that, was they are not on the agenda for hire until he gets that back.
They're a coach, they don't get hired until they have their people activity permit.
That's a great
Teacher,
question.
they don't have, they're not employed until they have their BCI, FBI background check. Fingerprints.
Okay, thank you.
And once again, it's okay, don't know anything about that. Return. Further discussion?
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. Franz.
Yes.
Very sorry. Okay. That is the conclusion of just about of the organizational meeting. I have a motion to adjourn this meeting, so we can move to the other meeting.
I'll move.
Thank you. Natalie. And Natalie can second. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian.
Yes.
Mr. Elam.
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue.
Yes.
Mrs. Franz.
Yes.
Session carries, adjourned at 7:35 PM from the organizational meeting. Okay, roll right on into another one, shall we? In a minute.
In a
Who's
minute.
that guy? So this is for you.
Okay, here we go. Regular meeting.
Okay, so, all right. Tap the gavel that makes everybody uncomfortable for some reason. Okay, now call to order the Monday, January 10th, 2022 meeting of the Bethel Board of Education regular meeting at 7:35 PM. Mrs. Hageman, will you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Mansfield,
I'm here.
Mrs. Sebastian. Here. Mr. Elam,
Here.
Mrs. Donahue. Here. Mrs. Franz.
Here.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I have two under board. I wanted to, like Justin and I can probably give a brief update on the facilities discussion today. And then I also want to say a few words about mental health.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sebastian. Any other additions? Okay, hearing of the public regarding agenda items. I have several hearings of the public. Mr. Brooks, would you count these as agenda items or?
I don't think those fall into the category of agenda items.
Not listed agenda items, correct?
Public participation.
Thought so, okay. So I don't have anything for anything specifically listed on the agenda for the hearing of the public.
I have one. I just want to let you know that farm contract, the sample farm contract that's attached to the request for proposals, excellent contract. It is what we needed 4 years ago when all we got was a paragraph. So I just wanted to say kudos to whoever did that because it's a definitely thorough contract and covers all the things that are needed for.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Appreciate that. Awesome. Did something. All right, so time for administrative reports.
At this time, I'll turn it over to the two elementary principals, Ms. Carrie Jones and Mrs. Cassie Schock.
Good evening. How is everybody tonight? It's good to see you all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
At the top of ours, we have our upcoming events. We're excited that our 2nd and 7th reading program starts this week. So we're looking forward to that. It'll give some of our high school athletes a chance to come in and read some of our 2nd grade students. And so we're looking forward to how that's going to play out. And hopefully next month we'll have some pictures for you on there. The rest of those dates you can read through. On the announcements, we are doing a readathon. I know that you guys have done something similar in the past, but we are using a program this year to see how this works. It's going to start on Monday, January 31st and run for 2 weeks. It's mostly online and the time will be mostly for the students to be doing at home with their families. So it's not going to take away from class time, which was one of our goals on that as well. We're hopeful that it will help us to raise some funds. Part of those funds we would love to put toward the new playground, the new building. And then the rest of the funds would go into the principal fund to help support teachers in the classroom next year.
Fourth and fifth grade choir had their second concert of the year in December, and they did an amazing job. They're looking forward to, in the spring, they're going to go to the Dayton Dragons game and they'll be singing the national anthem. So that's exciting for them. In December, we had a student of the month from every homeroom class, kindergarten through fifth grade, and our character trait was respect. So congratulations to those students.
Our fourth and fifth graders also had the ability to participate in a spelling bee in December. It was a pretty close match there toward the end. Mrs. Shock and I got in there before the end of the competition, and I think there was a lot of people biting nails on this one. So it was a good competition. We want to say congratulations to Macy Underwood, our spelling bee champion this year, as well as Julian Upshaw was the first runner-up, and Reagan Mears was our second runner-up. So nice job of those children.
And lastly, right before winter break, our students kindergarten through fifth grade participated in a sing-along event, which they've done here in the past. And we added a new event with relay races in the gym, which was a fun time. There are pictures up there of the various things that they did. They used cups to build trees for the holiday, and they wrapped each other into snowmen and various other things where they were running around and had fun. So we intend to do that again next year.
If anybody wants to try the snowman, I have plenty of extra toilet paper in my office. Thank you. Any questions?
Remember what the winning word was for spelling bee?
Ooh, you know what? I don't.
I love a good spelling bee.
I know they got a lot right that I missed because I'm like in my head and I was, oh, they beat me.
Cool. And thank you and the elementary staff for continuing to put pictures out on our various communications platforms. Very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Middle school principal, Mr. Matt Triplett.
Good evening. I just have a few items. First off is the athletic update for winter sports. This is records from conference play for our boys and girls basketball teams. 8th grade is currently 3-4, 8th grade boys. 8th grade girls are 7-1. 7th grade boys are 1-6, and the 7th grade girls are 4-4. Again, that's in conference play. The boys play Thursday here at home at 5:30 versus Covington. And then both the girls and the boys play at home on Saturday. Both start at 10 o'clock. I think the girls are in the high school gym and the boys are in the middle school gym. Next item is my monthly reminder. If you know anyone that could be a substitute, all you need is your high school diploma for this school year. We encourage them to contact the Miami County ESC to sign up to be a sub because we need some. And lastly, I just want to say a few words about Mrs. Spears on behalf of the middle school. Mrs. Spears has spent the past 20 years at Bethel. Her love for her students was very apparent, and she loved how small and family-like Bethel came to be. Her favorite part of teaching was seeing the light bulb come on for students when they finally understood the concept she was teaching. One of Mrs. Spears' students wrote this about her. Mrs. Spears was a good, genuine person when you talked to her. She would never judge you in any way. She was kind-hearted and was always patient with her class. She was so inspirational and made the class understandable. After class, I would talk to her and have some of the best conversations. She was one of the teachers that sparked my mind in reading. She was such a wonderful person that made reading fun. She gave students a lot of chances and was a very forgiving person. I always loved writing to her in the journals and loved waiting for her response. She had taught me so much, and overall, I will never forget her. She will always be a memorable teacher. So I also just wanted to thank everyone who wore purple on Friday in remembrance of Mrs. Spears. She will be remembered by the many lives she touched throughout her time here at Bethel, and her memory will live on in the halls of Bethel as well. So I ask that you please continue to keep her loved ones in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triplett. Appreciate you sharing.
Any questions?
One of the best parts of my job when I was working here was that I got to know so many kids at so many different levels from fifth grade on to 12th. And so I got to know so many of the teachers as well. And Jody was a great friend and a fine teacher and a better person. We miss having her around. Thank you for that.
High school principal, Mr. Barrett Swope.
Good evening. I have a few things in my report for this month. Before we had our Christmas break, the National Honor Society sponsored a food drive, and those were totaled up during the break. And we were able to donate 1,100 pounds of food to the Needy Basket up in Tip City. Special shout out to the baseball team that went above and beyond collecting food. Mr. Smith allowed fans to bring canned goods to get into one of the girls' basketball games, so that helped bring in a lot of food there. And then the three classes that brought in the most were Mrs. Schmiel, Mrs. Brewer, and Mrs. McKay's class. Secondly, we have a College Credit Plus CCP informational night coming up later this week on Wednesday evening. It'll begin at 5:30. It'll take place in Bethel Hall, and any student that's interested in taking dual credit, that's classes that are for high school course credit as well as college course credit. They need to attend that meeting. They should have one parent with them at that meeting as well. And then this Friday evening, we are hosting a military appreciation night at the boys basketball game. And all active duty personnel as well as veterans will be admitted for free. We have a couple other special things planned as well. 4:30 for freshmen, 6 o'clock is the scheduled time for JV, and then the varsity tip-off is scheduled for 7:30. That's this Friday. And then later this month, the freshman class will be taking a field trip to NBCTC. As 8th graders last year, they were not able to take that trip due to COVID issues. So our counselors were able to work it out with CTC, where this year's freshmen are going to be able to load up the buses and take a field trip to take a tour that they missed out on last year. So that's coming up later in January. And then just a few upcoming dates. We have ASVAB for all juniors later this week, CCP night, and of course the end of the quarter and first semester. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Okay. We on to item number 5. Turn over to Mr. Clerks.
Thank you. I have one item this evening. As many folks know, January is School Board Appreciation Month. And so with that being said, I've written a little statement that I'm going to read, thanking our school board members. Our school board members shoulder critical responsibilities and often make difficult choices for our district, all with minimal pay. School board members make policy, approve contracts with employees, choose curriculum, adopt budgets, and select the superintendent and treasurer to administer the district. They do all these tasks with the emphasis on what is best for the children they serve. Celebrating School Board Recognition Month is one way for all of us to thank them for all that they do. Being an effective school board member is no easy task, particularly in today's climate of change and challenge. School board members need to be knowledgeable about many complex education and social issues and carry out initiatives and directives from both the federal and state governments. To face these demands of governing our public schools, they give countless hours of personal time. School board members serve the public interest in public education and serve the needs of our kids. They ensure that decisions about public schools are made as close to the needs of our communities as possible while adhering to laws and regulations. This January, local communities are invited to honor the contributions and dedication of their local school board members, those locally elected citizens who make decisions that affect, influence, and direct the education of our youth. Our school board is just one of more than 700 school boards across Ohio. The Bethel Local School Board is responsible for an annual total budget of $25 million, 1,800 students, 175 employees, and 3 school buildings. It is more important than ever that communities support public education so that today's students are more prepared to be productive citizens and leaders of tomorrow. Please take a moment and tell your school board members thank you for caring about our children and giving so much to our community. Our Board of Education members are as follows. Natalie Donahue, newly elected. Congratulations, Natalie. Danny Elam, 4 years of service. Jessica Franz, newly elected. Congratulations, Jessica. Lida Mansfield, 2 years of service. Lori Sebastian, 6 years of service. Jacob King, exiting with 4 years of service. And Julie Reese, exiting with 4 years of service. I think it's only appropriate that we give these folks a round of applause and thank them for their service.
By your comments, and it's our pleasure to serve and do what we can. If we like what we do, we're going to be here, right? Thank you. Okay, item number 6, appointments to the district. So here we are, the organizational and regular meeting now. College Credit Plus meeting, like Mr. Swope spoke about, coming up this week. End of the second quarter and first semester already. It's crazy. I feel like it was just this time last year, a minute ago already. So school time coming up for students. I know my son's pretty deep about that. And parent teacher conference will be before you know it. So, anything else that we're missing that anyone's aware of? Or needs to be brought before us. Now that we know when our board meetings will be, we'll add those to the.
Right. And we probably should go ahead and put a facilities meeting in February at 6 p.m., correct?
Yeah.
That's the only one that probably would be missed. Okay.
Number 7 for the treasurer's item to request board action. Mrs. Bateman.
Okay, so the first 3 are approval of meeting minutes. We've got the work session from December 7th, the regular meeting on December 13th, and the special meeting on December 21st. So I need your approval for those minutes. Then need your approval on dues for the Bethel Board of Education to approve the Ohio School Board Association annual membership dues at $4,258 for the year. This membership enables us to get, training for board members as well as the superintendent and treasurer for reduced cost. They give us updates throughout the year of any legal things that are coming legislatively. They keep us in the loop. So it's very useful information. Approval for payment of the December bills, and attached is the detailed check register. So need your approval to pay for paying December's bills, and then December's monthly report. So we discussed last month, I sort of split it in 2 so we didn't have one huge document. We've got our cash summary report that shows our cash balances that are available in each one of our funds. And then the board reports on how we're doing and our bank reconciliation. So we're still running along as I expect, but in different pockets, so I'm going to sit and look at how we can, if the budget needs to be revised and where we're going with that. I mean, there's about almost 3% difference in funding, and most of that is going to be contributed to the fact that the fair funding model kept getting pushed. So instead of October, it got pushed to December, but I'm happy to say it did get implemented in January. So we'll certainly take a look at that. So, and it just happened on Thursday, Friday last week. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to look at those things, but but we're running where we should be. So if anybody has any questions about that, please feel free to ask, reach out. we need your approval on a donation from the Bethel Athletic Boosters for batting cages in the amount of $5,645. Approval for the addition of new funds that we're going to create an 019-9923 for Tip City Foundation, give some money for the Disney trip that you approved last month. And then we also created Fund 070 for 9922 for the $35,000 donation from the elementary PTO for playground equipment. So I wanted to create a separate fund and special cost center for that, so we could keep that separate and only spend that on playground equipment as the PTO requested. So this is the tax budget, alternative tax budget resolution that has to be with the Miami County Auditor's Office by January 20th. And I would like to request we postpone this, so remove it from this regular board meeting and maybe have a special in a few days or early next week, since I just got the new information on the new funding formula. And I want to make sure what we've already submitted on the 5-year forecast still holds true. I want to be able to do a deep dive and fix both of those. So if anything needs to be fixed on the 5-year, and be able to present that to the board in a few days, if that's possible. J is to approve participation in the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund. And then K is the RFP for farm lease. We do lease about 39 to 45 acres roughly of land for the farm lease. It's a little different than what you guys have done in the past, but an RFP is a request for proposals. So we'll post that, get it out there. So any farmer that may be interested in farming that can let us know and submit their information to us. I think I put February 14th in as the date that those proposals would be needed in my office by 4 o'clock that day. Some of the suggestions, when we get to talking about it, we can talk further about that. But so it's a little different than what we've done in the past as far as a farm lease. So that's all I have.
Is there a motion to place the items from the treasurer's report on the consent calendar?
I'll move.
Thank you, Danny. Is there a second?
I can second that. I did have a question.
Okay, thank you, Jessica, and we'll have discussion now, please.
My question was just about the meeting minutes, now the United States, since we weren't present for those sworn in yet. Are they separate?
You can certainly abstain. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to check, we have not participated, to my knowledge, in the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund in the past, so I'm not sure that we need to do that right now at this time either, unless there's some great reason to do it. Sure.
It's $250, and I think I may have said that we hadn't, and I apologize. Yeah, when I went back and dug a little further, and I forgot to get back to it. We did do it last year and the year before.
All right.
And so in this case, if there's something that affects all districts, it's good to have this extra little $250 legal assistance fund, so they'll do something for all of us.
Okay.
And you don't have to pay for your own independent attorney.
If we paid for it in the past, then I'm fine, I just was under the
Yeah,
impression.
and that's my fault. I missed that. Yes.
And it's super common. I don't know many districts that don't do it, actually.
There's a few that I know a few that don't, but it's a reasonable price. And if there is some pending legislation that's going to affect all districts, it's nice to get them to write it up for $250 a year rather than having to pay our own attorneys to do that. So.
Other discussion?
Well, I just wanted to say on the farm lease, I had some suggestions for edits that, because there's like a 90-day notice that is in there, and I know that can be sometimes difficult for farmers. So I'd like to change that to say that in the termination that it has to be done, by March 1st each year. And then there's a section that has approval of pesticides, that the board has to approve pesticides. I don't know anything about pesticides. But I would like to just say that they have to provide a list of the pesticides for The board, just in case we're questioned about that or have any concern, anybody has any concerns, we at least know what was done. And then this does require, like, I think $1 million worth of liability insurance. That's like the standard language that attorneys like to use. Certainly open to discussion on that amount as well. But if there's anything else that anybody would like to edit, just let me know. But those are the two that I would suggest making edits on.
I agree with that. Thank you, Tina.
So the two edits were they would provide a list of pesticides and.
Yeah, we're gonna strike the requirement to get board approval for pesticides and just say they need to provide a list. And then instead of saying there's a 90-day termination, just say we need to give them notice by March 1st.
And which agenda items? That's K.
Yes.
And we're gonna have to pull, what was the item you?
And if it's okay, we would be pulling I.
Okay. Do we want to vote separately for the minutes since we have abstentions from somebody for sure? We do that too? Okay. We got a lot of
Sure.
changes coming down the pipe here. If that's okay, because I forgot to call the vote again, so it's all good. I'm just a hot mess on this road calling situation right now.
I forgot to remind you, so I'm doing a great job. Okay, all right, so
Let's just kind of handle the motions that are on the floor at the moment, I suppose, which was to put these things on the consent calendar, but now we need to. We vote before we amend.
We're gonna amend it to pull item I.
right,
Okay, so let's do that vote first, because we've had discussion, we should have voted before the discussion. Right, so let's do that roll call first, please. My bad, and then we get back to the changes.
okay, Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. Elam.
Yeah.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. France.
Yes.
Okay,
I knew I wouldn't be perfect out of the box. Come on, we all know I need some improvements. Okay, so we've had some discussion. Before we carry on further,
I would like to make a motion for the consent calendar excluding the minutes A through C, excluding item I, and amending item K to the two topics Tina want to change with the farm contract.
thank you, Mrs. Sebastian. Is there a second? Sir, Mrs. Sebastian's changes.
I'll second.
And that's from Jessica. Okay. Mrs. Hagan, would you like to call the vote, please, according to the changes which are excluding A through C, excluding I, and amending the farm contract to not require the board approval on pesticides, but a list instead, and to have not a 90-day termination, but by March 1st instead. Right.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. Elam.
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. France.
Yes. I would also like to make a motion that we approve the minutes and items A, B, and C.
Thank you, Mrs. Sebastian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Elam. Okay, we call roll on the approval of minutes, items A, B, and C.
Okay, Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian.
Yes.
I'm losing my voice here. What's going on? I'm trying to write and speak at the same time. Apparently I can't do it. Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Abstain.
and Mrs. Franz.
Abstain.
Yes.
Okay. Right, number 8. Item number 8, information from the treasurer.
Oh, my
Mrs.
goodness.
Hagan,
I
would
know, I'm
you like to
talking,
discuss some fair school funding updates?
not really. Talking way too much tonight.
There are a lot.
Yeah, so as we've been waiting, and I mentioned earlier, the fair funding, school funding, initiative went into place. In January, just happened on our first settlement or our first payment, which was January 7th. And they did do a catch-up provision, which means that we were paid for everything that we should have gotten from July 1 through January 1st payment. And so that's why I want to do a deep dive and see where we're at, because there are some spending requirements. Student wellness and success funds was taken out of the governor's budget this last time and put into the fair funding formula. And so as part of that, we have to spend a certain amount of money on those services that would have otherwise been student wellness and success funds. We have been and continue to do so, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. What used to be economically disadvantaged is now DPIA, which is what it used to be called like 15 years ago. So they brought that back in. But there's some adjustments there that we need to look at and some new receipt codes. So where we used to be able to receipt, funding into one account, now we've got to split it up. So there's going to be some adjustments and things that I need to sort of work through, which is why I humbly ask for your approval to push off the tax budget a little bit. And I don't think it'll have huge effects, but I just want to make sure that we do our due diligence and then I try to catch as much of that as I possibly can. So good news is it's finally here. And as I dig through, I will provide the board with a more detailed update.
So did we receive approximately 50% of the yearly amount then?
Approximately, yeah. So,
We'll see a big bump on the next financial.
you will see some cash, yes. Do we need to discuss when that meeting would be? Or? For the update on the fair funding? Well, I can do it at a regular board meeting, just a short update, or if you want to do something.
You need an approval on the tax budget.
Oh, yes, we need an approval on the tax budget, right? Sorry.
That needs to be done in a month, yes.
Well, it's January 20th, and it's needed by the Miami County Auditor's Office. So I was thinking later this week or Tuesday of next week, because Monday is Martin Luther King Day, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, so amongst those dates for the rest of the board, is there a day that is absolutely preferred between now and next Tuesday? You're gonna get anything?
As long as we do it at 5, I should be just. Thursday would be least preferred.
Okay, well, Wednesday I have the college prep plus thing.
Oh, right.
So I'm completely out. Other than Wednesday, I'm great too, so. I can do. No, that's fine. So do you want to do, you said Thursday is not good for you?
I can if that's, can we meet any earlier than 5? It's 5. I can. Could we meet at like 4 that day?
On Thursday?
Thursday.
Is that too early?
What time? Sorry.
4, is 4 okay? Because then, I'd be done.
4 o'clock. Me too.
Yeah, you make it work.
And then you guys have to stay. So
Thank you. So Thursday, the 13th. At 4.
and you'll get notice out tomorrow on that.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else from your office?
No.
Number 8? Wonderful. So moving on then to number 9, superintendent's items requesting board action. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. On the agenda this evening for discussion and consideration is letter A, everybody's personal favorite, approval of the 2022-23 school calendar before we get into discussion a little bit about the calendar, I do want to give out some thanks to the staff members that assisted me on the calendar committee meeting that we had this year. A couple of them are actually here with us this evening. Molly Wiedemann, guidance counselor, Chase School Ed special ed teacher, Cindy Parrish, elementary teacher, Laura Wolford, music teacher, Colette Clayton, language arts teacher, Tracy Brewer, language arts teacher, and Aaron Henry, elementary teacher as well. We were able to not only survey the staff, but also take into consideration some of the community wishes in developing the calendar. For example, we targeted 5 major areas that we tried to hit and get into the calendar, which we were able to accomplish. First and foremost was starting after the Miami County Fair. We understand the importance of that, folks in the community that participate in that event. School starting on a Wednesday seemed to be very popular with the students and staff, and probably parents too. 2 full weeks of holiday break, which is nice. 1 week for spring break, which is great. School ending by Memorial Day. And we are also able to provide separate evenings for open house, K-5, and then a 6-12 night. I do know the separate nights might be a little bit more for parents, but if you've been up here, it's extremely crowded with our limited space right now. And so we were able to hit all of those main areas with the development of the calendar. Staff did a great job of providing input. The committee members were able to make sure that we hit the 1,001 instructional hours for students in grades 6 through 12, and then hit the 900 hours of instruction with K through 5, and making sure that our staff employees had their 184 work days as well. So it's a calendar that's very similar to what we had this school year, and had a number of positive comments from parents and staff as far as the way we were able to develop it, but we're also always looking for constructive criticism. So as we move forward and continue to have these kind of development of calendars, if anything sticks out, please feel free to send me an email or call us with me and share your thoughts. So that is letter A. Letter B is approval of long-term substitute. Last year, late in the summer, we had one of our high school teachers, Mr. Ted Olgus, who was computer technology, robotics type teacher, left the district, and had to hire a long-term sub, being so late in the game and not necessarily want to commit to a full-time teacher. Ohio Revised Code indicates that after 60 days of employment, you have to move them to a salary schedule as a regular teacher would be on. And so Mr. Hitzfeld has met that requirement and will be on that salary schedule for the remainder of the school year. The intent is to post that position in February for a teacher for next school year. And he's the one going to apply, but we're going to open it up for anyone that's certified in that area. Letter C is kind of a piggyback off of Mr. Triplett's sales pitch from earlier. I would like to thank Mr. Cromwell, Justin Cromwell, for stepping up and receiving van driver certification. So if any folks are out there and want to help make a difference for the school and be involved with kids, being a van driver or even a bus driver is a great position. It pays fairly decent. Hours are flexible. We provide a CDL, we provide training and in-service. We pay for all of that. And we're always in dire need, like every district in the state, probably across the country, of bus drivers and van drivers. So thanks to Justin, and attached an executive session review is a resume for you guys as needed. Letter D, unfortunately, we've had some resignations that we're going to need to approve this evening. First one is Lindsay Childers, kindergarten aide, Steve Farrell, media specialist. E is a resignation of supplemental position, Steve Farrell as head varsity football coach. So I'd like to personally thank those 2 individuals for their service and commitment and dedication to Bethel local schools, and wish them the very best as we move forward and as they move forward. Those positions will be filled with long-term subs the remainder of the year, and we will also post that position here in February for open needs for next school year. And those are the items that I had on the agenda for this evening for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk.
Welcome.
Okay, I have a motion, please, to place the items for superintendent's report on the consent calendar. Is that you, Suzanne?
That was me.
That's right. I know. It's harder to hear now. Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Elam, thank you very much.
Now we call
Thank you
roll.
very much.
Yes.
We call roll, please.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. France.
Yes.
Any discussion, please?
I would just like to thank the calendar committee. The last couple of years, I've been really happy with the calendar's appearance, so, good work.
Further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
I think she should.
Motion to adopt. I'll make a motion to adopt. Thank you, Mrs. Donahue. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Sebastian. Have a moment. Call roll, please.
Mrs. Mansfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Sebastian.
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mrs. France.
Yes.
Item number 10, any information further from the superintendent?
No, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Okay, item number 11 is the board report. Old business. Best introduction I can give to this, I guess. Okay. It's changed for the fact beginning of the year, correct? So at the beginning of the year, the district has adopted the stance, I guess is the best way to put it, that transgender students may use the restroom that aligns with their gender status upon advice received from our attorney. The statement our attorney gave to us follows. Several United States Courts of Appeals, including the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals in which Ohio is located, have determined that Title IX of the Educational Amendments of 1972 requires the transgender students be granted access to the restrooms and locker rooms of their sexual identification. This includes the Third Circuit, Sixth Circuit, and the Ninth Circuit. The Sixth Circuit case denied overturning a lower case ruling. The United States Supreme Court, while not yet issuing a ruling on transgender school students using bathrooms of their sexual identification, in 2020 issued a ruling determining that transgender status is protected by the federal law against sex discrimination in the workplace, or Title VII. Title VII and Title IX have similar prohibitions against discrimination. This ruling will have a significant impact on how the Supreme Court will rule on educational bathroom issues. So again, we have made this change within our district based upon the advice of our attorneys that should there be a court case come before us, pending or otherwise, we would not be successful in any battle. It would simply cost the district a lot of money that we cannot simply afford to spend. The change has been made. Our students are using their bathroom to align with their identity at this time. And that is really what
I have a look at it.
Everybody business to bring before the board. Okay. Hearing none. Oh, you're two. Lori had her two under, that was a board business, that's right. Sorry, Lori. Yours were the first one,
Facilities and.
facilities and mental health, correct?
Yeah, facilities, Justin already touched on the one that they put the bid pack, they met with the contractors about the electrical, plumbing and roofs. Those were the larger packages. And the important thing is hopefully the steel will get ordered promptly. That's why those packages were done. And I want to say a big thank you to Glenn with Peterson Construction, because he got that done before the holidays. We were really pushing to do that because if we don't have the steel, we don't get the building done on time. And the lead times are long.
Yes.
We talked in the meeting today about the Fair School Funding Act. He was very happy about that. And she's going to provide the FinDebt and sign the GMP2 and get that back to Carmen Miller now that we have the Fair School Funding Act dollars. Todd Bird mentioned once we get signed contract from a large donor, they can then go to the bank and get the loan and the athletics funding can proceed with the project. And lastly, this is kind of old business, but Carmen Miller is researching the Pioneer right-of-way issues we discussed at the last meeting.
They did not have an update for us today, but hopefully by next month, so they're working on that. And then the third item under board business is mental health. I want to take a minute. There's a lot of parents here, grandparents here tonight. COVID's been a tough situation for all of us. And not only did we have a teacher here pass away on New Year's Day, we also had a Bethel parent pass away. And I just want to mention this board and the previous boards. We have two wellness counselors that your students are welcome to use. We also have two guidance counselors. Grief isn't something that you can always predict. And I just want to encourage, if you notice a change in your student, please notify the wellness counselors or the guidance counselors and get your child help if they need it. These are tough times. And again, my sympathies with various families.
Anything further from the board? Anything to add to any comments already made? Thank you very much. Moving on then to item 12, hearing from the BEA president. Mrs. Brewer, you're up.
All right. I wore my victory orange today.
I would expect nothing less.
Just kind of going along with what Mrs. Sebastian spoke about. We've been back a week and it's been a very, very long week, very hard week. So I just want people to know we are doing our best. We have 11 teachers out today in the elementary, 8 or 9 in the middle school, a lot of the student population's out. And we're here, we're doing our best. We're all over the place, but we're really trying to keep our head above water. So we make a lot of things to get through the day, but I want to thank the administration. I want to thank the staff and the teachers for working together. When you have 11 teachers out, you don't have 11 subs. So a lot of teachers have to, and administrators have to give up their plan time to cover. So I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll get through it. It's just, we need a lot of chocolate. Yeah, so just bear with us. We're gonna get through it. Just have to do it together.
Thank you, Mrs. Brewer. Thank you to all the teachers. We do feel, we understand. It's a lot right now. It's a lot. I wish there was something more I could say. I really do. No idea what more I could say. Okay, hearing of the public, I have 4 slips turned in. We'll start at the top of the list. What's on the top of the stack? Angelo, is it Atla?
Yes.
Angela. Rules are what, 5 minutes? Is that correct?
Yes.
5 minutes time?
I don't think I'll take that, so. Good evening.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. I apologize.
Just on laying.
Thank you, Mrs. Reese. I had no idea. Thank you. Please, sorry. Thank you.
Good evening. Tonight, my name is Angelo. Like Sharon Madonna or Zendaya, no last name. I don't feel like it. I was born Angela Oldham, a female student of this school, class of 1992. I've suspended at this school, approximately 8th or 9th grade, for going into the boys' locker room. Boy, I wish you had been my board, huh? Today, this evening, this moment, just so you know, I identify as a man for the evening. Someone has to protect my granddaughter and the kids in this school against the thought of, it's too expensive to defend them. I'm in here to defend my granddaughter and every other child, male or female, at Bethel local schools. By the way, tonight, Reagan, I'm dad, Alana, I'm grandpa. Got it? We're gonna go ahead and just mess with everybody because I feel that way. It's fact, right? I mean, if you feel uncomfortable with that, I'm sorry. But science is science, reality is reality. You're selling our kids' way down the river. Good job. So tonight, just to let you know, I also feel like a board member. So which seat do I get? I feel that way. It's my reality. In fact, I feel like I have a doctorate of education. I think I signed a contract. I feel like I did to be superintendent. You might be sitting in my chair, sir. Are you going to submit to that? I wonder, do my feelings make any of the above true? If not, please explain to me how a male or female who feels that they are of the opposite genetic makeup has the power backed by science and then medical ability, please, to change their DNA and chromosomes to become something else other than what they are by nature, based solely on feelings. Throughout history, there have been tomboys, I was one, and feminine males. A societal preference, not your sex. Sex is a scientific and physical fact of who we are, not what we wear, but not what activities we enjoy, who we prefer as a sexual partner, which we really should be talking to the kids about. Come on. Laura Ingram Wilder was a little girl who grew up to be a great female author. And she was a noted tomboy, folks. Loved climbing trees, fishing, beating up boys, done that, playing baseball. Or maybe she was transgender. Is that it? She just couldn't wear jeans? And what's your opinion? Because she liked a certain set of activities, preferred certain mannerisms, all of a sudden, she was no longer a female, right? While living life as a female, Caitlyn Jenner, born Bruce Jenner, has stated that her sexual preference has nothing to do with how he is now living his life. Still sexually attracted to and partnered to women. Our children should not be used as pawns in a social battle between adults, nor should they be sold or bartered for. Shame on you. This school is facilitating abuse. Yes, abuse. By encouraging and enabling what is nothing less than Munchausen by proxy of one of its male students. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what this child's parents are doing, abusing their child. And we will not be a part of that. And we will surely not allow this board in its cowardice, big C, to include in that abuse the other students and families in this district. You talked about mental health. What a joke. You're crying out loud, what are you doing? You are forcing children to be fodder because of money. I'm going to say it again, cowards. You're not fit for the office you hold. What do you tell the little girl who's been raped or molested when she has to go to the bathroom and pull her pants down in front of a boy, regardless of how he feels? Or she gets to see him do it. Rock on, right? Or what do you tell the little girl who goes into the boys' room who is molested or raped? Because you can't change the hearts and minds and the physicality of boys. And we know they bully each other. Who will you pin that abuse on? Let me guess, the parents or the kid? You won't pin it on yourselves for allowing it. A political agenda. I have no ovaries. I have no uterus. I don't produce estrogen. I taught my children to play football, basketball, worked as a tree trimmer and a landscaper, and I was even a volunteer firefighter. I have many masculine traits that regardless, by nature, I'm a female. Also, my societal preference. I'll bet that little boy that's being used tonight, I bet his birth certificate says male, just like mine says female. I can choose a lot of things. One thing I cannot choose is to have a Y chromosome. And neither can that little boy, nor can a little girl choose also to have one. I can choose to wear jeans, no makeup, no jewelry, and act in any way I want socially. And the same goes for any man or woman, male or female, boy or girl. And as I'm kicked off of speaking, I will ask you, quite frankly, since I feel so masculine, where do I go to pee in the boys' room? Anyone want to point to me the closest male facility? Thank you for your time. You're welcome. Did you say me? Okay. Hi. Well, first of all, I'm going to change this around a little bit, but
You said you took a stance on this just tonight,
I didn't say that, no, so beginning of the year.
beginning of the year. Was there a vote taken on it?
No.
Why not?
It was based on advice from our attorney.
One attorney. You took no, you did not make it public. You did not open it up for any kind of communication. You as a collective board just decided that at the first of the year without any input from the staff, parents, community, teachers. Well, that's very interesting. So I thought there had to be a school policy before you can make any kind of decision like this. Is there a policy on this?
We're waiting for the white paper, right? From our attorney, but our understanding is he's basing it on our non-discrimination policy, is that correct? That would be our policy.
Okay, I've spent a lot of time over the weekend looking at Title IX and what you're saying is law. Well, it's not been settled in the courts. I'm here to tell you that right now. I have spoken to attorneys. You're afraid of being litigated from the transgender. Are you afraid of being litigated from the heterosexual? Because that could happen too. So I don't see it why we hired the board, you hired the superintendent. It says right there, if you read those things, I agree to always put children's interests first. You talk about their safety also. I do not feel you're taking the safety of my two granddaughters that go here, nieces and nephews that I have. So what I'm asking tonight, because I'm not just asking for the safety of them, I'm asking for the safety of the transgender, self-identifying, whatever. Something that have any of you had a conversation with an elementary child about this? A junior high child about this? I have, and it's not pleasant, let me tell you. So what I'm asking tonight is for you to walk this back. Open it up to the community so that we can have a discussion on this, so that we can come up with a better plan that fits everybody and the welfare of all children, not just the transgender, the self-identifying, but the female, male, heterosexual also. And what we should be better than this. We should not do it to just one. We need to be better. And I'm asking for an open community meeting and for it to be put out public to the staff, the students, the parents, and the community. And that's what I'm here to ask for tonight. Thank you.
Next, I have James Coburn.
So,
On paper to speak, you ready?
yeah.
Okay.
Let me shoot sweet. Who gets sued when something goes wrong? On the whole situation.
Can you speak loudly, please?
Who gets sued when something does go wrong? So he gets ready for the bathroom, hot and sex. Oh, I don't know. You have to.
I was thinking on all that works, but. Exactly.
And each of you,
We truly.
each school board member can be sued too.
Yeah, it's really good for the attorney how they exactly describe that.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak up, please?
I'm
I
sorry.
can't hear you.
It depends on how attorneys file suits, frankly. I mean, they can name us as a group, they can name us individually, they can name the school district, they can name individual administrators within the district. It depends on how the suit is filed.
So they can sue all employees.
Yes, it depends on how the attorney decides.
So how much liability do each of you have?
I mean, my personal liability policies aren't actually relevant to this conversation?
It is if
frankly?
you're suing individually.
I understand that, and I'll handle my own liability my own way. honestly.
We
As
shouldn't have
all
to
will.
see you, you should care what you think.
I do care what you think, 100%. Absolutely, that's why we're having this discussion. Okay. Any
That's all I
other,
got.
do you have other questions? You good? Okay, thank you so much for your time. Mandy, is it safe read? Safe read, sorry, I apologize. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I can't see you, so move over here. Thank you for letting me voice my opinion on this. I'm gonna bring up my concerns on the transitioning transgender restrooms as well. We're essentially allowing children to choose which restroom or locker room they feel like using. I say essentially, because not every transitioning or transgender person fully commits to the process or perhaps changes their mind midway. Research has been started on how many transgender people now regret their decision to transition to the opposite sex. This is adults changing their minds and regretting this decision. But we're going to allow students who wouldn't make the right decision to go to bed on time choose their gender. Just something to think about for a second. So by making this decision to open up either gender restroom to students who are transitioning and then may change their minds in 6 months, in a year, or even 4 years, you're not only allowing an environment for bullying of that student, but also a very high risk of sexual assault, be it on the transgender student or another student. You can find articles from the Washington Post, CNN, USA Today, NBC, Harvard, the list goes on, about the risk of sexual assault with transgender neutral or transgender bathrooms, gender neutral or transgender bathrooms. Just look at the level of anxiety and body image shaming our middle and high schoolers go through already. Hold on, listen. These kids are already uncomfortable and struggling to figure out their own bodies, to then add more anxiety about changing in a locker room in front of someone who is all aspects biologically somebody of the opposite sex. You are not just looking at physical safety concerns, you also need to consider the mental health concerns of your students. It was brought up by you, mental health. It's a huge concern already for middle and high schoolers, and you're just going to add to it. My number one concern is the safety of my own children. I have heard it mentioned several times here tonight, but as a school board, your number one concern should be the safety of all the children in the school district, correct? I see some of you nodding, some of you not. Is that correct? Thank you. My oldest is in the first grade. My oldest is in the first grade. So this is a huge concern for me because this will be a decision my children will have to deal with on a daily basis for 11 and 13 years. That is a long time for children to be concerned about going to the restroom at school. Those who advocated for this change to take place in our district, will they be here dealing with these consequences 13 years from now? Probably not. Will this decision be so easily fixed after the first sexual assault takes place, either by or against a transgender fluid student? Don't pretend it won't either. Don't bury your head in the sand, because this is Bethel and nothing like that would happen here, right? Well, this is not the same Bethel that our parents went to, or even my husband went to. What happens when a high schooler who claims to be transitioning uses a restroom in elementary? Don't think it's not possible. We just heard the elementary principal say that high schoolers are going to be reading to second graders. What happens when a parent or volunteer who is here helping with a class party uses the elementary restrooms? Again, you can't tell me it isn't possible. This decision isn't for one student, it is for the entire district, any visitors, and any sports spectators that come into the building. This is not something I want my first grader and soon to be kindergartners are concerned about. We all hope and pray something doesn't happen here, just like many other schools have hoped and prayed that they would never experience something catastrophic like a school shooting. Look at downtown Dayton. No one ever actually thought there would be a mass shooting there. But it happened. School shootings have happened. Sexual assaults at school have happened. Just because we don't believe something terrible could happen, or that any of our students are capable of something so horrific, doesn't actually create a safe environment. Take those school shootings, for instance. You have put in safety measures to try to prevent that from happening, like the window coverings and the school resource officers. What safety measures have been put in place for these kids with your decision? Is making a decision to appease one or two the right decision for the rest of the student body? Look at the schools that have allowed this, looking at the pros and cons, ask other districts what problems they have seen. Ask the police departments in those areas what they've been dealing with since the restroom mandates have been changed. One last thing to think about. Sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes. I've seen statistics anywhere from 31 to 63% of sexual assaults unreported. That's for adults. It jumps up to 86% for adolescents who are sexually assaulted, who don't want to tell anybody. So again, where's the safety? What safety precautions have you put in place?
Is Eldar, is it Murdoch?
Good evening, board. My name is Eldar Mordov. I apologize, I'm not as prepared as you guys are. This is my first time here. I'm a Hiska Turk. I'm from the Turkish community. As you may know, there's a big Turkish community in Dayton. We estimate, nobody knows the exact amount, but about 1,100 and 1,200 families. And the big chunk of this population lives in Carriage Trail in this district. Now, there are some challenges we are having right now within the community. For those of you who don't know where we come from, who we are Turks, Hiska Turks, descendants of the Ottoman Empire. We've been through 2 deportations in Second World War from our homeland, which is today's Georgia, modern day Georgia. In 1989, we've been deported from Uzbekistan, where they deported us to. And from there, I apologize. And from there, we were deported after the communism collapsed. We were deported to Russia. And from Russia, between 2005 and 2008, with the help of the United States, we came here, about 12,000 people. Now we're about 30,000 people. It's been 15 years. Everything is so great. 99.9999% of the population are law-abiding, hardworking people. We open up shops, businesses, and we work hard. But on the bad side, I personally go to work at 8 a.m. and right now it's almost 9. I'm still here. So I don't see my children. My children spend most of their time here. And we're slowly getting a language barrier between my kids and my parents. They cannot communicate. My dad doesn't speak as much. He's 60 years old, 60-some years old. He doesn't speak that language as much as we do. But my kids, they don't speak our language, and they speak English. So there's a language barrier, and we as a community thinking what to do. By the way, I'm a president of the Osman Ghazi Mosque / Community Center / Athletic Center. Slashes keep adding up. We first started with a mosque, then we made a community center. Now we just opened a athletic center, and next thing we'll open is God knows what. We have a lot of students. Parents are frustrated. We have students that come from Westchester, from Springboro. People drive their kids to Dayton just so they get 2-hour education, like Turkish language education. The reason I'm here today is since there's a big population in Carriage Trail and in school, as I know, there's a lot of Turkish kids. Would it be possible to like an elective class, a Turkish language class for kids, so that we can preserve our culture, we can preserve our language? Would it be a possibility? Also, I was told in our last meeting, and as Mr. Triplet just said, you're looking for a substitute teacher. And I was told multiple times that it would be best to have a Turkish-speaking teacher here, not only for Turkish language, but a Turkish-speaking teacher for English classes. Maybe we have that too. Actually, she's with us here. If it would be possible, we'd like to speak to maybe you, Mr. Ferks, or Mr. Triplet after the meeting. And that is what I'm here for, to ask if it would be possible to have some Turkish classes. We can, on our end, we can do anything we need to, maybe provide even a teacher, whatever we need to do, we can. Thank you, appreciate it.
Next up, we have Sarah Reed. Not speaking, fine. Hi. Appreciate your time. And Connie Reed?
That's me. And I am not, I am not here either. This is my first time here and I'm here because of the bathroom topic. While I was sitting here listening to how, you know, how the community feels, I was looking at your mission statement. The mission of the Bethel Local Board of Education is to provide a vision and an environment where all students and staff can explore and thrive in a safe, secure setting while showcasing district successes and community values. The fact that you made this decision based upon one attorney and who that affects this entire community. I've had children in the school for 20 years. My 3 children went through Bethel schools. Now I have grandchildren in the school. And to think that my values as part of this community are not as important as someone else's. I feel discriminated tonight. I feel that my granddaughter, who it's, you know, I understand that there's a lot of issues and a lot of differences and a lot of different beliefs, but I think it's important that my beliefs count too. And I think it's important that my granddaughter be safe too. She's born a girl and is a girl and says she's a girl. I mean, I won't go there, but please, please, please consider the community's values, what we care about, how we're raising our children. Just give us a chance, not just leave it up to one attorney.
All very much for your comments. I'll get with Mr. Ferguson, we'll respond as we can, we'll speak with our attorney where we can, and see what we're allowed to say, what we can't say, what we can't say. Get with you, Mr. Mulderall, and apply to you as we can too. Anything else we can say there, Mr. Ferguson?
So will you put it on an agenda or we're gonna hope that you get back with us? Well, we know we're gonna get answers. Can we get a stay until we get those answers? Or do we have to will my granddaughter not be returning tomorrow? Because she's not gonna participate in this mess. Is there anything you can do? You sat here and listened to us. Anything you can do? Again, we didn't hire or elect your attorney. We didn't elect you. We elected a board that we thought were representing us. And we find out today, you guys didn't represent us at all. You didn't even hear. I mean, it's not even like a majority of us said yes. We couldn't fight that. You guys didn't even care that much. And it's no disrespect to you, sir, but you're hired. You're voted. Can you do the right thing by the people here and at least let us be a part of the process? I mean, is there any kind of stay you can put on this situation until it is a final answer? Because this is not a game to play with. That's not a
That's what I
joke.
wanted to know before I walked out tonight. What am I gonna tell my granddaughters about going into the bathroom as of tomorrow? Can you walk this back? Can you make it a stay until there's more community input? I just can't believe that.
Community awareness.
Yeah,
Just
that you got to give
awareness.
parents and grandparents a chance to talk to their children.
Maybe we want to pay for it. You're supposed to be our voice.
Yeah.
I agree with that, just as I will say something, because I had no idea that was even something that was a thing at Bethel until probably 5 hours ago. And then I decided I'm gonna come to the board meeting because I 100%.
Parents are gonna be shocked.
The fact that parents didn't know about this coming into this school year is disgusting, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Well,
Because now it feels like it has been taken from us.
Well, it has.
So I understand that, and there's a lot of things that we cannot share due to things like privacy and HIPAA and legal concerns.
We worked out.
Share things like that.
That's something that can't be shared.
But it's a fair shake.
that
for whoever
transgender
does
girls-
But that's largely why you don't broadcast things. And then when there's possible pending litigation that we were made aware of, and you go to your attorney and they give you advice on how to proceed.
Get
do
your attorney.
What you're told. And our attorney honestly has 30, 40 years of experience. in
Right,
this.
that doesn't make him
It
right.
doesn't make him right.
And argues on a
Maybe
federal
wanna look
court
for
a
another
lot.
attorney.
It was legal to kill Jews when my
so-
grandmother was there. Does that make it all right because it was legal?
How about another
No one's
attorney?
killing Jews.
No, but I'm saying just because it's legal doesn't
But
make
he
it
argues
right.
in front of federal courts a lot. You just need to begin as legal counsel. We.
But it's not been ruled on.
No.
And we're the
We know
people who
that.
serve.
But
I'm
go
sure
back
that's
to
why
your
Mr.
mission
Burks is here.
statement. It's this school, isn't it about the community's values? I mean, where does that? Are we gonna just trust an attorney? Where's the attorney from?
Yeah. Where's,
I mean, we're not gonna take into account what the community wants? Is it just too bad?
We're just a source of income. Then listen to us.
I want to, back to the original question, so how are you going to get back to us? Because I truly want to know
Yeah,
what
I do
safety
too.
concerns there are for my children and for other children that are venturing into these opposite sex schools.
Yeah.
I want to know, I truly want to know the safety concerns, so how are you going to get back to us?
Respond, I mean, if I have contact information on the form, I will respond because it's asked for.
That's not the
We'll respond as we
community.
can.
Can we get it added to the agenda for the next meeting? That's not to the community. How many more people will remain in the dark?
when did you find out about this?
Tonight.
I think that's
tonight.
maybe something that's
I mean,
probably,
but-
that's told to the parents of the students at Bethel, so they can be a part of this. This is a big thing, it's
I have
not
no
a small
problem putting
thing.
on an agenda item for next meeting.
This is a big issue.
Motion to add that to the agenda for the next month.
Is there a second?
Motion to add it to the agenda for the next meeting.
Is there a second?
So are you gonna just hold it, push it back, stay it, or is as of tomorrow?
We pull our kids out.
No, it's a policy in effect right now.
It's a policy in effect. Okay, you just said it's a policy in effect. Can
It is
we have a
policy in
copy of
effect
that
right now, unless
policy?
This board takes action that changes that. Right now, it is a policy that is in effect.
I'd like to see. the
I'd like to
policy.
see it.
I want to know by what right.
Did you make copies?
We have a non-discrimination policy. It is a board policy that is a non-discrimination policy that covers transgender students.
But you're
You're okay with me going to the
discriminating
men's
against my
bathroom right
granddaughter.
now? I can go, because I told you, I feel very manly right now. You're fine with me going.
Mr. Burks, are we permitted to discuss this particular student and their, that they meet the OSHA requirements? Like, what can we do here? Can I?
I would not recommend speaking about individual students. Transgender services.
I know there's not genetic therapy to change the chromosomes.
And some period.
I don't think that's what we're asking about.
Bring in our
It's not about that the child is transgender or transitioning.
Yeah,
It's
that's not the
it's
first
about
individual.
making that child and the children that are going to be subjected to entering, my daughter entering a bathroom, or maybe there's a man or a boy. I'm not comfortable with that. As someone who has dealt with sexual assault my entire life, from a child to honestly, probably 5 years ago, it happens everywhere. It happens everywhere, in your schools, in your church, in my family. It happens everywhere. And we can't be ignorant to that, and we can't act like it doesn't happen. And I'm not comfortable with my friends' children, my daughter going into a bathroom where there's going to be the opposite sex in there. That's just not right. I'm a very open-minded person. I mean, I really, really am. But on this subject, it's wrong. It really is wrong, and it's
It
not
is.
safe. It's not the best interest for the children. It's not, and it honestly sounds like you're more worried about
Yeah, the litigation.
than you are the
Behind it.
safety of.
Safety
What's
of all
best for the
kids, not just, it's all of them, because you don't know what you're putting on these transgender kids and transitioning. It might just be one now, but there'll be more.
Yeah, you're a haven. How many people are
And-
coming here because of that?
And you just,
After 10 years, he will change or she will change her mind next year.
Yeah.
Do you think it that person is healthy? how the person can, when he came into the world as a female or male to change it. If something changes, that means something abnormal with him. No.
You're
The
going,
city, the state, the government has the money to build a new bathrooms for their people, but the city doesn't have enough money to support school, for example, to make a class smaller. There's about between 20 and 30 students in one class, and do you think it is normal? How much taxes the parents pay? All the city, how the government support all the schools? How can be in one class 30 students? Why they don't spend money for this? Why they don't make classes 14 or 15 students? Well, the US doesn't have money for this. It's one of the richest countries in the world. They can build new schools in 1 year, and they make a smaller classes. They can be substitute too. It will be very helpful for each student. The teachers, like at the time when I was student, all the teachers was like a second parents. And now when we send our kids to the school, and the teachers who will teach all this stuff, and they think it is normal. What will be after 10 years? Do you think about this? Maybe one of us not will be in this world, but the world continues. If we're gonna change everything, will something change? Since the Constitution has been voted, we have only 27 amendments. Yes, same thing needs to be very strong with this school policy. Everyone cannot change the policy because she or he wants something.
I just have one thing to add to that. You said it's policy. It's not school policy. You're going by what your attorney said according to Title IX. And he's telling you, he's advising you that it's law, and it's not. There has not been a ruling on educational bathrooms. There has been in the workplace, but for adults, but not for educational bathrooms. If this was, every restaurant in this area, every Lowe's, every Myers would all have unisex bathrooms. Think about it. Think about what they're telling you. They're advising you wrong. What you are doing is normalizing mental illness. And we need to think about that.
We had a motion to put this on the agenda for the next time, and we don't really need a motion to put things on agendas. We will have it on our next agenda. I have no further comments for public discussion. Are there any other motions before this board at this time?
Nope, no new board member, anything to make a motion to put a stay on this? You didn't have a part in the decision, did you?
No, I'll speak for myself, I did not.
They should be safe from litigation then.
Yeah, you two, I just want to be made known that you two were not part of this policy.
And you
But-
guys should have helped
But the rest of you was. The rest of you were in on the policy making. On the decision making. Okay, I want it to be made known that 2 new board members were not in on that policy decision, but everybody else was.
I second that.
Okay.
So with no other new motions, I believe that concludes hearing of the public. Is there a need for executive session this evening? Hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Elon. Is there a second?
I'll say.
No? I'll second. That was
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yeah.
Mrs. Sebastian? Yeah. Mr. Elam? Mrs. Donahue? Yes. Mrs. Grant?
Yes. You're adjourned at 8:57 p.m. Thank you all very much for your attendance. See you at our next meeting on February, work session in February the 1st. 1:30 p.m.
Together.